Welcome to India, Sam.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you for last 2 days. We thought we'll just have a brief chat around risks and what you see across the globe. Maybe to start with the first question, you have been traveling across the world and meeting numerous global clients. There would have been a number of risks that has been spoken about.
Yeah.
What could be the top 2-3 of them that are relevant in the current context, and what opportunity arises to us?
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you for welcoming me so warmly to India. It's a real pleasure to be here. So what I would say, I'd answer your question in two ways. The first is what is very evident from a number of the interactions I have, but also a number of the global surveys we've done on with the CEOs. So you will know we have almost 5,000 CEOs who participate. And the results this year say that 45% of those CEOs believe that their organization will not be economically viable within the next 10 years if it stays on its current path. And that trend is only increasing. Last year it was 40%. So what that tells me is a big risk is inaction. If companies don't do anything to evolve their business models to move forward, that is a risk to them because they will become irrelevant over time. And to deal with that risk, us as risk professionals, I think our role is to help organizations make the decisions they need to make with confidence, so they take risk intelligently to move forward. So I think that is a type of risk which is not the conventional type of risk, but it's basically inaction, which means the organization doesn't move forward. And then specifically in relation to risk types, in the current environment, there are some big macro risks that organizations face. For example, geopolitics, economic volatility, particularly inflation, which is causing organizations in many territories some significant problems. Technological disruption, which is both an opportunity and a significant risk also, is something that organizations are faced with. And cyber risk, primarily as a result of geopolitics, but also other factors, are some of the main risks that organizations are trying to deal with today.
It's very interesting you spoke about technological risks and the evolution around it, including cyber. You know, India as being a largest technology service providers across the globe, and we have young population, maybe technically qualified and skilled, but this generative AI and artificial intelligence is also brought in a different perspective of threat as well as the opportunities. How do you see evolution of generative AI and the artificial intelligence, and what impact it could have for risk professionals like us? And what are those areas that we should focus on?
Yeah, so you're of course right, and I know I'm preaching to the converted in India being really at the forefront and having a really good capability in the digital world, let alone AI. I think AI has a number of impacts for clients and therefore for us from a risk point of view. I think the first is the opportunity AI creates. And again, if I go back to that same survey, 60% of organizations see AI as an opportunity to create the disruption for themselves, so they don't become irrelevant. It's one of the things that will drive that thinking. So I think from a risk point of view, what we want organizations to do is to really understand how to use AI safely, responsibly, securely, and reliably. Because only by doing that can organizations really take advantage of the risk. So I think the first part is, as risk professionals, how we help organizations to use it in the right way. And we have a number of solutions to be able to do that, so you can trust the AI. The second area for us is how AI can enable some of the solutions we take to market. For example, in the regulatory space, it can be a real game changer in terms of looking at emerging regulations, current regulations, looking at how they should be tested, indeed carrying out some of the testing itself, documenting the results. So in the regulatory world, as being one example of many, it is an enabler of some of the services we take to market. And thirdly, of course, AI can be used by ourselves to make our delivery much more effective, much more efficient, certainly. So I think AI has a number of connotations for clients, the services we take to our clients, and the way we use it ourselves.
Thanks, Swami. You actually referred regulators and regulations affecting the technological advancements and how one needs to play.
Yeah.
In the recent past, post-COVID, regulators across the globe have seen resilience as one of the key critical component for regulated industries.
Yeah.
And you've seen in particular in Europe with the financial services and others, with the DORA Act and various legislations that have come across the globe. Where do you see the importance of resilience for global organizations? What are those key learnings which you think Indian organizations should adapt and learn from?
Yeah, so resilience is critical in the context, particularly in the context of the change that we talked about earlier. Organizations need to take risk to evolve, and when they take risk, they need to safeguard themselves to protect against the potential things that come and bite them. And when it comes to technology, it is one of the main factors that reliance on technology can bring, or potentially over-reliance on technology, if that technology falters, fails, is unavailable. So that's where resilience comes in. And actually it has to be resilience by design. In other words, it's not recovery when something falls over. It's building sufficient tolerance so the organization can keep going even when there's some disruption along the way. So in the regulated businesses, like sectors like financial services, we see much more stringent requirements for organizations to carry on. In the past, these used to apply to areas like technology and security, but actually it's expanding much more. So resilience also, of course, needs to consider reliance on third parties as well. So the resilience agenda is broadening much more. And there are specific requirements in territories like the UK, like Europe, in the US, I know in Asia, in Australia, specific requirements to deal with resilience. I think the other part of this, one of the things I see is when there is strong regulation in certain sectors like financial services, there is more cautious use of some of these new emerging technologies like AI. When you look at the unregulated sectors, there is far more use. There's a number of AI models used outside financial services per organization is much higher. So I would also argue there is a need for those organizations to remain resilient, because if they can carry on business possibly where their competitors aren't, that creates competitive advantage. So I see resilience by design as something that creates competitive advantage for organizations.
You know, it's interesting, you know, since we spoke about resilience as one of the topic at present, as you know, India is growing and evolving economically. As the economic evolution happens, institutional strengthening and regulatory strengthening that happens, it means that organizations need to prepare and change themselves to adapt to a better governance, better regulations.
Yeah.
What could be few suggestions, recommendations that you can offer to Indian corporates who are in the verge of growing global, moving global, as well as growing larger in the changing regulatory context?
Yeah. So the first, I think, is absolutely embrace these emerging digital and technological capabilities. They make a big difference to an organization, and what we see at the moment, and I'm sure you see India, in India, I see elsewhere, organizations using or piloting lots and lots of different concepts. But hand in hand with that, whether the regulation is there or not, the recommendations I would make is understand the risks you're taking. Establish the right framework for using these, particularly AI models, in the right way, so everyone follows it. The risk here is that different parts of the organization, different teams, they will start to use and experiment the way they want to. And if there is no consistency, there is no standard that they need to follow, they will do that potentially in a high-risk way. And at some point down the line, it may well come back and bite the company. So my recommendation is really to set some minimum standards. Make sure everyone understands those. Train the teams so they know what to do and how to use it. The skilling process applies across the firm. I would, a phrase I like to use is managing risk is a team game. It's not just up to the risk function, it's across the whole organization, because anyone in the organization could create an unnecessary risk to the organization. But take advantage of the opportunities, but do it with eyes open.
It's interesting, Sam. I'm going to ask you a question which is more internal for our people. I have 4,000 strong professionals working in PwC India and addressing our client requirements.
Yeah.
What would be your key messages to our people?
First of all, Shiva, I think you've done a fantastic job in India, because when I was here last time, the team was a much smaller part, in maybe a third of the size, and your growth has been phenomenal. I think you're pushing a lot of boundaries. So my messages to the team are, firstly, be curious. Spend time with your clients. Understand what their problems are. And it's really important so we can respond to their problems with our solutions rather than pushing our products at the client. So curiosity is number one. Of course, spending time with clients also helps to build relationships. The second is be bold. Don't worry about pushing boundaries. Do it with eyes open, consult others, but try new things. If it doesn't work, learn from it and move on to the next thing. But push boundaries and be bold. The third is be commercial. I think it's really important that our people understand we are running a business. Business needs to grow. Growth creates opportunity to invest for the future and invest in our people. So be commercial in the way we look at things. And the last is be collaborative. And as you said, and as we talked already, risk is a team game that applies equally to us. So collaboration means working together, go to clients together, talk to clients about their problems and bring others in addition to ourselves, who can help to solve the big problem rather than a small part of it. So those four things are the main things I would suggest our people should be very mindful of in terms of behaviors.
Thank you, Sam. I'm sure it will be quite useful for our clients and of course to our people too. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure being here.